Hey guys, happy Friday. Thanks, Ilse. Yeah, so today we have the Lucky Fringe earrings class, and I'm wearing a version of them that I made that's a little different to inspire you to change up the colors and make them your own. But today I'm going to go through the basic step-by-step for creating a fringe design. And so if you're just getting started as a new beader, this is a great class for you. I'm going to go really slow through the basics of creating brick stitch on a component, which is the foundation, and then creating another row of brick stitch to strengthen it up and give you somewhere to turn. And then I'll share some tips and tricks for stringing your fringe and bringing that into the work really smoothly. And then at the end, if we have any time, I'll tell you how I do my fringe designs, a little bit of inside knowledge on like how to use a little bit of software and get yourself a head start at creating your own patterns. All right, so here on the mat, what I've got is the original colorway, and then I've got a bunch of the beads that I used. And so let me just switch really quick to my mat. Let's see. There we go. And so I'm using Toho seed beads today because I really loved the bronze colorway with this. It had the perfect green that I was going for our March. And forgive me, I have extra color in there. That was just for inspo later. But I have them laid out in order how I'm going to use them. So that's kind of like the first step is you maybe want to build your palette and kind of figure out, which colors you want to use. And from there, you can change it up, So once you have like a working design, one of the funnest things I enjoy doing is taking a design that I've done that I think was successful and pleasing to my eye, and then I'll make it in different colors using the same template. So here it is on gold. And all I did here was I just switched the gold and the bronze. So I switched color A and color C with each other to give me a totally different look and kind of make the gold pop. So this is a silver frame and that's a gold frame. And so just giving you an idea of something really, really cool you can do once you've got a design you like. And you can always just take this design and do that for practice. You can think of like so many things like making them in birthstone colors. You can take a color palette that you like just from like anything really, a photo or something that inspires you, and then just take that palette and line that up, arrange it in A, B, C, D, and you've got a brand new earring design. And so most findings, like if you're trying to decide what findings to use to start a fringe design that's really basic and easy to get started, something with a flat base. So I always tell folks, if you're brand new to making a fringe design and you're doing your own pattern for the first time, a flat base is going to make it easier for you to predict how they're going to flow like that. If you get something with, the temptation is always to get like a round base, something that's circular, and it's gorgeous and beautiful, but you're always going to have to kind of predict what that slope is going to do. And so there's a few ways to figure that out, but that levels it up a little bit for how advanced it is. And sometimes even with the best guesses, you still end up restringing sometimes. So if you're starting out, any finding with a nice flat base like that is going to be your ticket. Okay, so let's get started. Let's jump in. So I'm going to go ahead and get a binding ready. And then I'm going to lay out my beads A, B, C, D on the mat over here. And I'm just going to have this kind of off to the side so you guys can see what I'm doing. And in this design, I worked with color A as just this metallic gold color, just really pretty. And then my color B is a transparent green, which gives it like a pop. It gives it some depth. And then I'm working with a bronze, which is really another depth color, right? The metallic bronze next to this transparent dark green. That's going to make it pop. And then anytime you want to add sparkle, go for silver line. So a silver lined bead is going to look like you put a crystal in it, right? You can make it kind of highlight that way. And so that's kind of like my middle color. But one thing I was going to say about, it's fresh in my mind because I was just doing this, but if you are doing photography, use your silver line more sparingly than your opaques or your colors that don't have a reflection. It'll make your photography easier. Not sure why, but I just noticed that. Just noticed that today. Okay, so there's my beads, and just here off the mat, off the screen, I've got them laid out in order. And that order's coming from just from right here, guys, in the handout. I just laid them out just like that. Okay. And then of course I've got the finding, and you can get that in silver or gold. I'm working with the silver today. There's a pack of gold available that comes with actually 2 pairs. I've taken a pair out of that one. And then needles and thread. So for needle and thread, I'm using spool of good thread, and you can work with black or white, whichever you like. And then I'm using a size 11 needle. So far that's all we need to get started. At the end, depending on which frame you chose, you're going to want to pull in ear wires and that match your frame. It doesn't have to match. You can always mix metals too. So whatever inspires you. Okay, so how much thread should I cut? If you do not want to have to add thread, which this design, it's totally doable not to have to add thread, cut a wingspan or measure out about 60 inches. That's 60. So for me, I'm just going to make a wingspan, and you'll have a little extra. If you do a wingspan, it'll enable you to weave in without having to, you know, maneuver around with a shorter needle or something. All right. And so getting your needle threaded with the good thread, you just want to, you can always kind of moisten the end and get your needle. You just want to bring the needle onto the thread as best you can. It doesn't always go through right away, but just keep trying. And if it's not working, just bring that as far or as close as you can into between your fingers to try to stabilize the end. And if you moisten it, that helps too. And then I'm going to fold over quite a lot, actually. I'm going to fold over. So the side of the needle that I'm pulling through here, I'm going to pull through 10 inches or so. So a lot, even maybe more than that, maybe 15 inches, just folding it over so it's nice and easy to work with for this first part. Okay, so that's the needle side. Hook that into your mat for a second and go to the end that does not have the needle on it. So it's the other, get this out of the way, the other side of our cord. And from the base of that, from the end of it, measure maybe like 7 inches from the end. So here's my end, and I'm just eyeballing roughly like 7 inches and just kind of pinch that spot. That's the spot you want to anchor to your component. And so to anchor it, it's really easy. We're just going to do a double knot, but I'm going to show you a trick to make your double knot not slide on you. Okay. So I've got it holding the frame, just like that. And again, there's about 7 inches of tail over here. And I'm going to tie the first part of a knot, right? Let's bring that through. Before I complete the knot, I'm going to bring it through the loop one more time. So surgeon's knot, right? And then just bring that close. Try to get your knot to nestle, at least at this bottom part. It can be moved around and slid, so it's not super critical if it's like in the middle or over here. It's okay. And so once you've got that, you're going to have to do that one more time. So just pull that tight. And then I sometimes turn it around so I can be working with my right hand using the tail side. The tail side's easier to flip through. Flip through the hoop like this. So there's 1 and 2 through the hoop. And mine's spinning. There we go. Just bring that down. And that is a knot that will not loosen on you while you're stitching. So that's what we're going for. It's a, I guess you could call it a double surgeon's knot. I'm just going to pull that tight one more time. And get ready to stitch. So the tail side here, I'm just going to hold it like this for now. And here's my working side. I'm going to get my needle and my first 2 beads, which are 2 color A beads. So the metallic gold in this case for me. I'm just going to pick up 2. And so for this part, you can do it holding it, or you can press it down into your mat. I'm going to hold it for visibility for you guys, but it is also possible to place it flat on your mat and do this. And that sometimes is easier, sometimes harder, depending. But go ahead and get those beads to slide right down so that they're just sitting above the knot that we made. So just like that. And now just bring your needle behind the component and through it. So I went behind it, and then I went through the center, and now I'm just going to pull. And while I'm pulling, my finger is holding that thread in place. So it's not going to bring my bead behind it or under it or anything. I'm just going to pull through. And this part, there's lots of threads, so it's just going to kind of look like that. Notice where your thread's coming out. My thread's coming out over here. I want to go back through that same place where my thread's coming out, heading through that second bead in the direction of my exiting thread. And if you do that, what will happen is it'll sit right on top of it. And that's what you recognize as like that first nice start of brick stitch. I have an extra step that I like to do that's optional. I do it here just because it's easier to do it now than later, because you've got to maneuver under layers of beads if you do it later. But if you do it now, you can work with the tail directly. So before carrying on with my brick stitch, I'm going to put a needle on that 7-inch tail. And I'm just going to bring it up through the first bead. See our first bead on here? And that has two advantages. One is it will give me some way to tighten that first bead, right? And then it also gives me the luxury of not having to maneuver it later when it's tighter and it's got beads on top of it, right? So that's kind of what we're going for here, is getting those to sit like that. Okay, and then again, I'm still going to hold the tail. It's just helping me keep both of those beads sitting side by side like that. And don't worry if it moves on you while you're working. It's going to move on you a little bit, but every single new bead, it tightens the one before it. So it's kind of cool. Okay, so same thing we did before, but this time we're going to pick up just one bead. So from here to the end, it's just one. So I've got one bead. I'm going to go behind the component and pull through the center of the component, and then just keep going with that thread. Go slow so you don't get tangles. And then again, I'm going to go through that bead, heading in the direction of my thread, the way the thread's coming out. And pull that tight. And there's our third bead. It should sit right on the side. So you'll notice that once I've added the third bead, my second bead doesn't loosen up anymore. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at that third bead and thinking, oh, it's wonky, it's sitting sideways. When I put on the fourth bead, it's going to straighten that one out. So here's another bead. Needles behind the component. Just going to push it through. And then just pull that through nice and gently. And I dropped it a little bit, so let's bring that back like that. And then we want to get back up through that bead. So we're going for a total of 10. And there's number 4. Here's number 5. Again, just one bead. And then I'm just holding that needle behind the component, pushing it through the center. And pull that needle through. And here you see my hands are holding that thread as I slide it through. And then just go right back up under that bead. And there you go. So if this was knitting, we'd be calling this casting on. That's kind of the same thing, right? We're just getting those beads to sit against this edge. So here's another one. And this will be available as replay, guys. So if it's not clicking in this exact moment, it might during the replay. And so one of the things that I encounter as I get going is I start noticing my threads just a little to the side to see how it's kind of not staying put. That's all adjustable both now and later. So even after you finish the next row, for example, you can still, as long as they aren't tangled or stitched through each other, straighten them out. So as long as they're not, layering, I'm going to let it go and I'll fix it at the end. And by layering, I mean like overlapping. There's that one. Need one more, or a few more actually. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's 8. Okay, so 3 more. So every bead, we're just picking it up, bringing our needle behind the component, and then through the center. Here's our new bead, needle behind, through the center, and then just using my finger here to hold everything in place. Bring it down, and then you want to just go right back up through that bead. Okay, let's see where we're at now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I've got 9 beads and it's getting pretty close to the edge here. And so all you got to do, for some reason, mine just tend to wobble in the direction I'm stitching. So just move them over. And you'll be able to get one more bead on there. That was caught on a little something there. Okay, so one more bead here. I'm just going to go right for the corner, right? Just going to get it right there. Pull that down. Bring that up through the bead. So total of 10 beads. And one cool thing about if you're designing a fringe design where you want it to have a center point is you might want it to have an odd count. And so to give it an odd count, because we've only got 10 here, that's one reason I'm going to do another row. The other reason I want to do another row is because if you do another row on brick stitch, all of this here gets tightened up by the row you build on top of it. And then the third reason is when we're doing our fringe, it'll give us a less visible turning spot. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that just on a finished one really quick to kind of explain. Because you could start building fringe from here, but it is actually really beneficial to add this next row because it gives you a spot where you can make those really tight turns. Now, when you do turns above that row, like right up against the component, you can see those thread turns. But for some reason, you don't see them as sharply if you've done your turn here in between. So in between the first and second row there, and that's where all my turns were done here. So just something to think about. And then as you're doing that, because you're pulling on, I'll show you in a second, as you're pulling on the thread bridges from row 1, all this beautiful stuff here tightens up. So it's kind of cool. Okay, so here's where we're at. We have just finished, we were working in this direction and I tightened it. I flipped my work because I like to work from left to right because I'm right-handed. So that's just a preference and it doesn't actually matter what direction you hold it or what direction you work. This is the last bead I added right here. And it's still a little loose because we're going to get a row on top of it and tighten it up. Okay, so to start the next row, we're going to do increase. So this is an increase row. We're going to go from 10 to 11 beads. So you first want to pick up 2 seed beads. And again, I'm still working with the color A. And do you see all these little threads? The ones that are jumping from one bead to the next bead here? We're going to go under those with our needle. And that's what enables us to create the next row. And so here's our 2 beads. And since this is an increase, I'm going to go under the first thread bridge. And that first thread bridge might loosen on you because it isn't locked in yet. So I'm actually holding it with this hand over here just for a minute until I can't hold it anymore because I'm running out of thread there. And at this point, I'm going to switch to holding the bead itself. Just going to hold the bead a little bit while I pull through and then come up through that second bead we added. Let me tighten it one more time. Bring that down. And it can be a little tricky to see it at this moment, but this is the second bead right here that we strung. And we want to go underneath it. We're heading in the bead at the same direction as the thread's coming out. And then just tighten that all up. And what should happen is those beads will sit side by side like that. And notice how they kind of helpfully tightened up the little row below it. So if it's not working for you and if it's loose on you and you feel like it's not working out, you can back that stitch out. I would recommend taking the needle off and then just pinching those beads and pulling it. But another way you can do is just pull this corner bead, right? And that'll tighten up everything below it. And then you get one more chance just holding onto this to tighten that up again. So it's really forgiving. And all you got to do is just hold your thumb above those two beads and then just pull it. And once you've got that, that's the only part that's tricky. The rest of it's smooth sailing. And so to do that, next step is just to pick up one bead. It's got one bead right here. And we're going to go under the next thread bridge. So for the rest of this, we're just going to work in whatever the next thread bridge available is. So for us, that's this one, the second one. Under and pull through. And then again, we're going through that bead in the same way we were before, just going through that bead in the same direction as the exiting thread. We're heading in from where the thread's coming out. Another bead. Under third one. And up through the beads. So far so good. Everything's working. And the tail thread, I'm just kind of holding it against the component out of the way. See over here, just kind of getting it out of the way. And I will go ahead and weave in that tail thread once I have somewhere to go, meaning once I have this row on. There's that. And this part's actually super enjoyable because nothing's loosening up on you. Everything's staying nice and set for you. This is the part I actually really enjoy of brick stitch. That first row, as is true with almost every bead weaving, the first row you're kind of focusing a little harder than is relaxing to do for a long period of time, right? But then after that, it's just like, hey, this is cool. I could do this for a minute or two. Almost to the end here. All right, so this is bead number 10, but remember how we want 11? I used the last thread bridge to add that bead. And see how it's shifted to one side? We're gonna put one more bead sharing the last thread bridge. So pick up one more. And then to get underneath the thread bridge, once you've covered it up and it's a little hard to see, if you want, you can just go in between the two beads below, like that, and pull through. And that will just pop right up into the thread bridge for you. And this is another one where you might want to take your thumbnail and tighten it. And there you go. Feel free to slide it around if you feel like it's not centered. It'll still move for you on the frame if you want it to. But that's kind of what you're going for. And now the brick stitching is done. Everything from now on is just stringing fringe, and it's super easy and enjoyable. I'm going to get rid of the tail really quick. Why not get that out of the way before I start doing fringe so I don't get any tangles. So I'm going to grab another needle again because it fell off earlier. And then this is actually how you do weaving in at the end as well. So we'll show it then too, but you want to come up through the bead above. Bring that tail through. And then let's go down through the adjacent. Down through this bead. And then I'm going to do the same thing with finding thread bridges. So go between those two beads. So just stick your needle just right in between the two edge beads, pull it through, and then just pull out up this way. And there you go. You got the thread bridge for that one. Now come up to the same bead. So there's one. I'm going to do that one more time, maybe two more. There we go. And I'm not going to trim it yet. I'm going to wait until after I add that row, just in case my needle pokes it through. Does that make sense? So if I was to trim it now, when I go to work in that bead to add my fringe strand, it might poke my tail out. So I trim it after I add that strand, but it does get it out of the way to get started, which is really nice. And it adds a little strength over here. So that's just kind of like a thing I do. I thought I would share it because that's what I really, really do when I'm making these. And now we string. Okay, so I'm going to teach you the fringe pattern really quick. So in your handout, we did all that. Everything we did is outlined, including what thread bridge to use and everything. So you don't have to memorize anything we just did. So now what we're going to do is we're going to string our fringe in our pattern. And then our last bead will be what's called our turning bead. So you turn, and then you just come all the way up. And then we're going to just jump into the next bead by just making a turn. And the pattern for what to string is here. And the finished look. And the way I've worked it is just from strand 1 on this side to the center strand here, and then to the end. And so I kind of have a trick for how I like to work on it. And it's not as friendly for the camera, so I'm just going to show it really quick. But when I'm working on these, like in maybe like a fast mode where I want to just keep track of where I am, and maybe I'm going to get interrupted and trying to keep track, I'll bring my mat over and just cover up that I'm working on this row. I'm working on strand 1. And then when I finish strand 1, I'll slide it over, know that I'm working on 2, slide it over. That's how you can use a ruler too. That's one way you could do that. I'm going to move the mat for us because it makes the camera really fuzzy. All right, so this is what I'm going to do first. I'm just going to string this pattern. And that way I don't have to memorize, right? I don't have to memorize my counts. I don't have to worry about all of that stuff. Here's my 3 A beads, 3B, 2C, there's 1D, 2C, 3B, and then this one varies. Bring it up real quick. This one varies every time. We just keep climbing. So this one's starting with 5A. So I got this on, and this is a great spot to error check. Make sure that looks good. And that part of the pattern repeats for the whole thing. And I'm going to add 6A. There's those. And here's the earring. Let's bring it down to meet what we're doing here. I need one of these sparkly size 6 in the silver line. It's going to look like a crystal on the bottom, really sparkles. And then a turning bead. And so the turning bead I used was just another color A. Okay, so when you're doing fringe, one of the best ways to do it, let me bring this over. Let's see if this is clearer. I feel like that's clearer. One of the best ways to do it is to lay it like this. Skip your last bead, just move that bead down. And then I'm going to bring my needle up through all the fringe strand here. So just going to go through each one. And while I'm doing this, I'm kind of lifting it off the mat. And you'll know if you skipped a bead, like if your needle didn't quite get through one of those beads, it'll hang down now and you'll see it. And so it's a little hard to show you as my camera's above me, but I'm looking at it this way. So any beads that are not staying, it'll show right here. You won't be able to miss it. And then from here on the base, for now, just go back through the same bead your thread zags in. So we just want to go through that same bead. And I'm just going to hold that out of the way for a sec. All right, once you get it to maybe like about halfway pulled through, grab the turning bead with your hand and pinch it. And then grab the strand here and just pull, 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 pull. And there you go. You don't want to make it too tight because otherwise it's going to do the curly thing. So if you pull really, really tight, it's going to start doing that. And we don't want it to have too much tension. So you just let it relax a little bit. And then once you think that's good, this motion here we're about to do where we do the turn kind of locks it in, you know, just a little bit. So I'm going to just do a turn through the next bead. Pull that down. And sometimes when you do that turn, it tightens it a little bit as well. So if it's tightened it too much, just kind of flow it out. And there you go. So let's do one more. Let's do one more. And then I won't sit and string all of them because that would take quite a while, but I do have a jump ahead. But I want to show at least a few strands. So let's see, I need my pattern back here. I'm going to start doing strand 2. All right. So let's get 4 of these, 4A. Four of those. And then the middle part's always the same, so it's nice and easy to remember. You don't have to, eventually you won't even need to look at the chart. It's just going to be 3 with color B, 2 with color C, and then 1 with color D. And then back. 2 color C's, 3 color B. Oops, there we go. And where it really varies is in that count for the bottom A's. So now it's going to be 6 color A. And that just pretty much goes up every strand until you get to the middle. 4, 5, and 6. And then I need my sparkle and my weight. It's one of the cool things about the size 6 seed bead is it's a nice weight turning bead here. All right, slide that all down. And then skip that last bead. I just want to come up. I got through about this many. As your strand gets longer, you might not be able to get through all of the beads, so that's okay. Just slide them down. And I'm still doing that thing where I'm checking. I'm lifting that needle out to make sure none of my beads have fall. And if they don't, then it's great. All right, so we're gonna head right back up through the same bead that our thread's coming out of. One thing I'm doing there, I would do that kind of slowly. I always kind of try not to puncture the thread. If you press your needle against a wall of the bead as you're going through the bead, you're less likely to puncture directly through the center of the thread. Rarely, but it can happen. You'll snag it enough that it'll actually not pull through and or give you a little tuft of thread that kind of pulls out of the bead. So it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So just, and if it's going to happen, it'll happen when you're live for sure. So I'm always a little careful when I'm going through the beads so I don't snag them. So there's, I'm going to make a turn here. And I'd like to do one more strand so I can show you getting rid of the tail thread. And I wove my tail thread into the 3rd row. So here I'm testing for wavy after making the turn through that bead. I'm holding it up and looking. You see how that one isn't moving very much? It's just kind of, it's a little too tight. So just gentle it. There's definitely some finessing when it comes to fringe. The good thing is the thread I'm using, which is the good thread, it doesn't stretch. So any the settling that you get is just settling. It's not gonna stretch on you. Okay, so my next one I need 5A. Okay, so there's those. And then that same nice little repeat of grabbing the 3, 2, 1. Back to 3. I'm sorry, back to 2, and then back to 3. There we go. There's our nice little feature, a little center focal feature. And feel free to replace this bead, color D. Feel free to replace that with an interest bead. You'll get something cool. I mean, you can change this up. You can make that like a crystal, for example, like a little 3mm fire polish or something, you know, adventurous like that. I'm going to do 7A. So there's 7, turn, a 6/0, and a turn. Okay. Skipping that last bead. Let's bring our needle through. Doing that lifting thing just to make sure that they don't get skipped, right? There we go. Okay. And let's work up back to the base here. So just avoiding my tail and avoiding. There we go. Just don't want to puncture anything. If it goes through smooth, you're probably great. If you feel resistance when you're bringing that needle through, maybe reset. Take the needle out and try a little bit different angle with the needle, or maybe the other wall of the bead. It's worth doing. Just on the occasion you get a problem. You don't want that to happen here, right? And another thing that might start happening is your fringe will jump into the center of the one you're trying to pull. So just make sure that's out of the way. And here we go. All right, so I'm still off camera here. I'm pinching my turning bead and pulling through. And there we go. And now before I trim this, I'm just gonna do a little pull here. See, I've got the tail thread and the working thread. Just want to smooth that out. I'm gonna trim the tail now because it's not going to get any passes, right? Make sure you trim the right one. And all I did there was I just used some scissors, pushed down and pulled up on it. And there we go. So let's make the turn into the 4th bead here. Make sure everything's still flowy. And that's pretty much the gist of it. The fringe strands continue to increase until you get to strand number 7, and they start decreasing at number 7. And number 6 is an interesting one because it's got all solid color. And I have a worked ahead sample to show you. Here's a finished one. So we just finished number 3. So doing that same step, you would just want to carry on. Only difference between the center one is, again, it's just 29 of all the silver, and it just gives it this little like sparkly center. The silver lined, I mean. So that's the finished one. Here is, swap this over really quick. It doesn't get tangly. Let's kind of put those over there. All right. I have one that has been worked almost to the end. So from where we were, let's flip it over. Okay. So we had finished these 3. Here's the rest of the little segments worked, so you don't have to watch me string and do all that. And here's our last one. Last one, I already pre-strung it, and I just got to bring that up, and I want to show how to finish it and cut the strand and then put an ear wire on it. And then we're doing really great on time, so I should be able to talk a little bit about pattern making if you guys are interested in that. All right. So just started my needle. I need my turning bead. I did not get strung. And on this one, I bet I can get through all these. Let's try. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Gives you a chance to look at it, make sure everything looks good. Okay, let's go right back over here. Same thing, going straight through that same bead that we're exiting when we started the strand. And your thread will be getting shorter at this point, if not super short, but here we go, just jumping over it. So pull that all the way through, hopefully without snagging another fringe strand. They just want to jump into there, see that? There we go. They're determined to. And there you go. So we don't have another strand to add, so we don't have anywhere to turn down through next, right? So what I did for my designs is I went back in this direction through the next bead. You could go through this bead if you wanted to, but what happens when you do that, and why I didn't do it, is it kind of puts you in a position where you have to make another trip around the component. And so you'll have an extra layer of thread showing on the component, which isn't the end of the world. To be totally honest, it actually looks fine. But if you want to do that, you can. I just want to make sure I mention that. But if you really just want it to look like it is now without any more thread going on up here, you can make a little turn, kind of like we did with the tail. Actually, exactly like we did with the tail. The only tricky part is now you have a fringe strand to avoid. But you got to get kind of through the bead here. And again, I'm being really careful because I do not want to puncture my fringe strand and make it do anything different than what it's doing right now. So that serves as my locking turn for the strand I just made. And now I can go down through the third one. Back toward the component, I mean, on the third one. And as you're doing this, pull that thread in front so you don't catch your fringe strand. All right. So far, so good. Okay, so now I'm going to catch a thread bridge and come right back up to that third bead. So what you want to do is just kind of in between the second and third bead, just go ahead and stick your needle in there. And actually, I'm right up against the component there. Pull that through. And then pull up out this way, that direction. And now you've caught the thread bridge. Flip it over. And then come right up through that third bead. Every time you do that thread bridge lock thing, that is a really solid way to weave in your work. And I'm going to do it one more time because this is our last strand. It's my last chance to make it for sure secure. So I'm going to go down to the fourth bead. Pull that through. And then go through, just basically just stabbing that needle right against the component in between beads 3 and 4. So I don't even have to see my thread bridges. I know it's there. Get that through it. And just pull it this way, right? And you can actually feel it in your hand. You can feel it catching the thread bridge when you do that. As you pull in that direction, you can kind of feel that little click sound, if that makes any sense, to feel a sound. But yeah, and so it goes through fourth bead there, and I'm going to trim it. That's good enough. You could do one more if you wanted. Again, you can wrap around the component if you want. And there we go. So you got finished earring in what is actually no time. I mean, you can make these really quick. You can see like how fast we did that first section. We just breezed right through 3 strands. You can make these in 45 minutes once you get going at speed. Pretty good. So all you have left to do now is just pop an ear wire on it. It's symmetrical, right to left, so it doesn't really have a front or a back. Yeah, thank you. Marguerite says applause. It's so nice. So here's my ear wire. So I grab one of those. And then what I have here are just a pair of chain nose pliers. Regular, like fine chain nose pliers. And I'm going to open up the seam on the ear wire. And if you're working with any of the bead landing ear wires, which are the ones that are packaged like this, they're also in gold and they come in sterling silver. They have typically, and I think this is true on like most ear wires, your seam is going to be on the side that the hook is on facing. So over here, so you can kind of see it, but if you're looking for it, there's our seam. And we're going to use our chain nose pliers to laterally open that up. So just holding the ear wire in my hand, and I've got the pliers focusing on the side where I know my seam is. So they're holding that circle steady in position on that side. So just like that. And then I'm just going to actually move the tool and the ear wires kind of both. And see how we opened that up a little bit? You're still a perfect circle, but we moved it a little to the side like that. And that's going to give us the ability to put our earring on there. And then same thing, you just want to close it up. So grab that seam side with your pliers and then just work that to the side. and the cute little ball that's on it covers up your seam. There you go. So it's super, super easy to do these earrings. I mean, they look way complicated, but they're not. They're just a little bit of pattern design and then a little tiny bit of brick stitch and then some super freestyle fringing where you can just go at your own pace and make it look however you want. So let's see how.
Hey, Danielle.
Yeah.
It's Carmi.
Hey.
I didn't interrupt you once,
I
and
know. It's like, whoa, just sailing.
yeah, I didn't want you to feel abandoned, but I knew you had a lot to cover, and it went so well. The only question I have, there's two. One is, could you give us a sense of how long they are?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay,
can
just
measure
a,
them. Let's see. So there's inches here. So if you're wearing them, like from the top of the ear wire to the very bottom fringe strand, it's going to put you like at 4¼
inches.
Yeah. If you
And
wanted to shorten this or lengthen it, I would recommend changing the number in this row and the number in that row. So
that is great advice.
Yeah.
And then the second question was, do you find them heavy?
No, not too much. In fact, I've been wearing these ones throughout our whole class now, and they're pretty light. The finding isn't like it's not super heavy. I've worn lighter earrings, but these are not like, ones where I feel like they're gonna bother me, if that makes sense.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I knew the finding is almost hollow, so it wasn't adding a lot of weight in the dangle. And those were the only questions you had today.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, your question kind of transitioned me into the pattern design part that I thought I would just kind of share how I did this. And of course, how you can customize it. You mentioned making it longer or shorter. If you really like the balance between how much gold is above and how much is below the interest layer. So the interest layer on this is this little center focal here. So the section where we did 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, that repeats itself throughout the whole thing. And what you do is you're just kind of telling it to go into a point, right? And so if you wanted to customize this to be longer or shorter, but still preserve the symmetry, do a 1-for-1 increase decrease with these 2 rows right here. So for example, if I wanted to make it longer, maybe I would take and make this 4 and make that a 6. And so basically start with strand 2, right? And then when you get to strand 5, you'll add another that has 8 and then one that has 10 here. And then to make it shorter, of course, maybe make that start with 2 and start with 4 and then start with maybe a 3 and then 5 and so on. And then you would just, however many beads you remove here. So keep in mind, if we increase or decrease it by 1, we have just added or subtracted 2 beads from this. Do the same thing to that number 29. So if I add 2, I'm going to make that 31. If I take away 2, right? And so that just would give you the symmetry over again, but allow you to change that length up. So that's super easy, step 1. And then how can you design your own? So there's ways with software or without. And so without software, the absolute easiest way is to get a piece of graph paper. And the graph paper is sold all over the place. You can just get it at any office store. And then there's also printables. Like lots of stores have printable graph paper that'll come out. And so it won't give you the opportunity to do that part, but you can just take in your mind and make that assumption. You'd be like, hey, in my mind, I know I'm going to have 2 rows of whatever my main color is built as brick stitch above. And you don't even really need to graph that out. That's part, you just stitch that part. But then on your graph paper, you can just do this and design anything you want as wide as you want. And if you're working on a flat base, you don't have to worry about how it's going to lay. It's just, so flat base meaning like any component where the bottom's flat. And then there is a formula for round. I know that's a little like out of the purview of this class, but if you wanted to do a round one and you know the curvature of it, if it's a perfect circle, for example, every time your bead moves 2 strands away, you're going to need to add a bead if you want it to be the same length, right? So every 2 strands, you need another bead, and it's going to flow like that for you, typically. And with the disclaimer that bead sizes differ. Some beads like Toho are a little bigger than like a Czech 11. So that's something else to keep in mind. Maybe don't mix your brands. So if you're working with Toho, stick with your Toho. If you're working with the Czech 11, stick with the Czech. But because they are different sizes, if you're going for something that has a picture in it or a look that has like some kind of definition and you work with two different brands, you might not get the same layout. Discard your variable beads when you're stitching. So if you get a bead that looks a little wonky, it's kind of a little shorter than the others, or maybe it's got a little, save that bead for a more forgiving design and just use your ones that are closest to each other, and you can make that selection while you're stringing. Okay, so if you want to go crazy and really do this like with software, a couple programs you can grab. You can get Bead Tool 4. And Bead Tool 4 is cool because it actually will do the printed out pattern for you. That's the one I use sometimes. But what you're seeing here, I actually did this in Illustrator after I had my design done already. I brought it into Illustrator so I could layer up different size beads, because in the program that I was using to do just basic stitch outs, you can't actually add in these different sizes, or at least I haven't been able to figure out how to do that. Another program I've heard people use, Procreate. So that's Procreate. It's a one that you can use a stylus for. So that's a cool one. And last but not least, you can go to certain stores like on Etsy and places like that. There are designers who created blanks, and I buy these from other designers all the time. And what they are they're like blank brick stitch printout patterns that do, for example, if you weren't working on a component, it'll give you like the top part of it, and you can just color it in with colored pencils. And so those are my go-to, and those are fun for travel. You can sit there on the plane and color it, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyone have any questions for me about patterns or the design or anything else about future classes?
No, Danielle, that was it. So
That's it. Okay, easy.
if you have the moment to show next week's class will be awesome.
Yeah, let's look at that. So next week we're doing a class with like a little wavy rainbow. And it's kind of like a ladder and square stitch combination, and you can really get creative with this one. So I just use regular size 8 seed beads for this one, but you can change this up, use different beads if you want. But basically what this is going to be is a lot of ladder and string. Nothing too complicated, just a new way of kind of throwing it together. And it looks really cool when you're wearing it. It really does look like you got like a wavy rainbow going. So cute, organic, fun. And then the class we have after that is one that is like a little Trinity knot. So it's got crystals. These are 6mm emerald crystal. And then it's kind of embedded them inside of a herringbones. The way this is made is actually, it's kind of fun. It starts with a long stitch of just regular single column herringbone. And then you make it really, really long. And I tell you the dimensions here. And then we're just going to actually tie it in a knot like it was a piece of ribbon, right? We're just going to flip it around and then join it. And then we'll stitch our crystals into it, and we'll make a little bail for it. And we make the little bail really easily using one of the bead landing bail components. It just kind of clicks right on like that. So this one, I did not label it advanced. I labeled it as intermediate because it's actually it's not too hard. So don't be afraid of it. It looks intimidating, but it's not. And I did all the hard part for you of making the versions that didn't work out. It didn't instantly get to this from there. Here's my failures. And here's one of my like what ifs. So I'll share all of my, what happened here, and it might inspire you to maybe make like if this could have an 8mm bead, or something. So lots of different ways, different colors, stuff you can do. Yeah. And so that's all the rest of March. And then we have April after that. April's actually really interesting. It's a 2-part class. I have started it with like how to do like a stitch embellishment. So it starts out with a class that will show you how to make the base, because that can be done a couple of ways. And the way to make the base is you can either square stitch it, which is an off loom way, or you can loom it. So if you're a loomer, we're going to do a quick little review of how to do a loom base, and then we'll make an embellishment on top of it. There's 2 different inspirations for the embellishment. If you like the diagonal, it's a little trickier, or you can just do like a straight line. So in part one, we'll make this. And then you'll have time in between the two classes to stitch up a couple of them if you want to try all of this. And then part two, we'll demo both of those embellishments. So that's the first two April. And then we might need a gift box, right? Because we just made a lot of jewelry and Mother's Day is coming up. So I started making gift boxes using some of the flowers from the, there's a section that like, at least in my store is like right next to the jewelry section. It's only a few aisles over and it's just a wall of stickers, really beautiful stickers. And that's where I found these little beauties right here. And I used our flat back crystals. So in this class, I'm going to show you flat back crystals. And again, these are stickers, so they just stick right on there. But if you really want to go crazy and get creative, there's another little section where they've got cutouts and you can glue cutouts on. I'll show how I did this layered cutout. And I tried to make an owl. I don't know if he actually looks like an owl, guys. What do you think? He's cute. I love him, but I think this one is this. I was just trying to branch out from just using what was already there, right? They also have like a little lotuses you can do. And so, yeah, this is a warning rabbit hole right here. You'll end up doing this like all day. That's what happened to me. I was gonna make one or two and then I just made a bunch. So, but then you could take your beautiful earrings like what we made today and let's see, how do I feel about color? Like which one do I want? Blue, I'm trying to decide, these are my favorite, the blue or which one's gonna match with my earring more. I'm thinking the orange maybe? I don't know. So when your giftie opens it up and they see this beautiful earring in there. And you can do this on any box. All of these boxes are in the jewelry section. So if you just walk over to the jewelry section, you'll find this is the bracelet size if you're looking online, and all this will be in the handout too, so you won't have to search part numbers. And this is the one that they call this one necklace. And there's also a ring size, but your ring size would be good for a little small pair of like little brick earrings or something. So this was really fun, guys. We'll have a good time with this one. And then, oh, I'm right at the button. I went right over to the top of the time there. Oh, thanks, Carol. Yeah, these were fun. I had a good time with these. Yeah, so that's all I've got for class today. I'm working on more as always. I'm on to the next thing. So if you create with us anything from this class or any class, we'd love to see all of the things that you make. So if you post it on social media, if you post as #JohnBead, #MakeItWithMichaels, we love to see all your cool designs and we like to share them. And we also have a Facebook group. It's PDFs and projects from John Bead. It's on Facebook. And you can find us from our blog if you go to blog.johnbead.com. That is another way to find all that content and other inspo. All right, guys, have a great weekend. I'm going to wish you happy beading. Have a good rest of your day too. Hearts.